Hey guys, welcome back to Honda How To. Today it's going to be how to build a D series for Boost part 2, so stay tuned. Okay, I know on the last episode I didn't show you guys how to install piston rings. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll show you anyways. Okay, the first ring you want to use is the main oil ring. You're going to want to work from the bottom up. So get this guy right here, and all you do is you find your gap and you just set it in, and then you hold your finger right in the gap there and then just kind of work its way around just like that. Then there'll be two oil rings. One will sit on the bottom of that ring and one will sit on the top of that ring. So you take your one, grab it here, there we go. Take your one, same thing, just put your thumb there, just kind of work it around, and it should, oh, that caught on the top there, it come on the bottom, oh, I'm losing it here, there we go, should just drop in, just like that. There. Okay. Now we're going to do the top ring. Okay, now you take your last oil ring and same rules apply. You just kind of hold it down in that bottom notch. Just kind of work it around. Should fall right in. Okay, now we're gonna do our second ring. It's the same way that that oil ring was put in. This is why I said it was pretty self-explanatory. And that's it. Okay, and the last ring. And you're done. Just make sure, before you put this into your block, just make sure all these little ring gaps are faced away from each other. You don't want them lined up like that. That wouldn't be good. And you get some blow by there. That wouldn't be good. So get that away from it. And we should be ready to install. So all you want to do, this thing is old. There's a lot of better alternatives to ring compressors than these. These aren't very good. I've had this ever since I built my first engine, so I mean it's been used and abused. I wouldn't recommend this. There's a lot better ones, like there's these ones that kind of look like cogs on a gear. It's supposed to just kind of cut down on the friction. You'll see when I pop this piston and there's a lot of friction there, so you like to use a lot of oil when you pop these things in. So let's get to that. So you're going to want to oil this up really well, so it'll slide right out of that ring compressor. Okay, now I always lube up my ring compressor. Okay, now when you clamp this in, you want to make sure all your rings are being clamped. These things can get cockeyed in there, so you gotta kind of keep an eye. And just leave, just below the oil ring, leave some of the skirt out. Just tighten it up. Just keep an eye on it and make sure nothing's getting cockeyed in there. It actually looked like it clamped pretty good. Okay. Now we can put a bearing in there. Now, I know there's going to be people that mess this up, but if you look in here, the smaller indent on the top of your piston, that's your exhaust side, okay? So that will be facing this side of the block, okay? The bigger indents, that's your intake side, so that would be facing me. I'm not accusing anybody of doing it, but it sometimes happens. So we're gonna look, that's the exhaust side, so it's gonna go this way. Okay, make sure your crankshaft is all the way down at its furthest point. What I like to do is I like to take a hammer and just kind of tap around it. Make sure it's sitting on there square. Just like that. You want to take the butt end of your hammer and tap it down into the bore. Just like that. Easy as that. Okay, now, like you guys saw in the last video, we're just going to flip it over. Fail. Lost my handle. Okay. Put the pin in. So we're not moving around when we're torquing things. There we go. Now, what we're wanting to do is spin the crank back towards you. And there's our guy right there. Now, we take our rod cap. Make sure you use assembly lube. Okay. Then we're going to put it in there. Nice and gentle. We're going to have to turn it back a little bit so we can get to our bolt hole here. Actually, you know what? We're going to turn it back down and get our bolt in here. Kind of get it started. There's another bolt. Okay. Don't want to go too far. There we go. Okay. You want to push up on the piston and push that cap down so it's nice and straight. Because the piston, when you turn the crank, when it's up against the crank, it's going to want to come, that connecting rod's going to want to come away from the crank. So, want to get these things close to being snug. Okay, so once you get your cap all seated up, we're going to torque this to 40 foot-pounds. And you want to torque it evenly beside the two. So that one's starting to get snug. Now we move back over to this one. You just want to keep going back and forth. You don't want to tighten one side more than the other. There's 40. There's 40. Okay, so that's how you install the piston. We're going to fast forward through this last one here because you already got the gist of it. And then after that we're going to put our ARP head studs in, and then we're going to put the cylinder head on. So we'll get going to that. Alright guys, we got the block done. Take a look. Looks pretty awesome. Now we're gonna toss the ARP head studs on, and then we're gonna put the cylinder head on. Okay, now we're gonna put our ARP head studs in. I always like to put the motor up at top dead center, just so when we decide to put the cylinder head on, everything should be ready to go. And make sure ARP sends this stuff with their studs. Make sure you use this stuff. It works awesome. So all you do is you just kind of squeeze it out onto the stud. Just kind of spread it around. Then you thread it in. Take an Allen key. And just make sure it bottoms out. You don't want to reef on it, just bottom it out. And then we're going to do it for the rest of them. Okay, now we're going to put on our head gasket. This is a Cometic 3-layer. Kind of got to get it in the right place to get it on there. It's kind of a pain sometimes. There. Now we grab our cylinder head. And just set it on the studs. This sometimes takes some wiggling. There. With this new packet, because usually they send two, you want to put this on your washers and your nut that you put on your studs. Alright, I'm going to show you guys on this first one so it's a little bit easier to see, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You just do the same thing for all of them. So all you do is you take a trusty little screwdriver like this and you set your nut in there, and then you just put the screwdriver on top of the stud and just let it fall down. I mean, this one's really easy to get to, but when you're working in like this one here, you can't really get your fingers in there to drop a nut on, and when you drop it, it usually goes back here, down in here. It's kind of a pain. Okay, now we're going to torque down the head. The specs on this head are, first step is 22 foot-pounds, and then it goes to 53 foot-pounds for the second step. And we're going to tie in another third step, and we're going to go right around 70 pounds. So let's get to that. Alright, I'm going to show you guys the sequence that this head is supposed to be torqued into. This is your exhaust side. You're going to want to start here. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And you want to torque every single time you torque this thing, you want to torque it in that sequence. So each step you want to put it in that sequence. So let's get to that. Okay, so that was 70 foot-pounds. That isn't really recommended because, I mean, that's gonna do it at your own risk, I guess. What you're supposed to stop at is 53, but this thing's gonna see a lot of horsepower, so we went a little bit higher. So I think that should be enough for this video. Next video, I hope to get it out a lot sooner than you guys had to wait for this one. I know it took a while, but we were waiting on parts and stuff. So, and we're gonna be having to wait on a water pump and tensioner, but we'll probably do something else to kind of pass the time until we get that kind of stuff. So if you guys like this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment if you have any questions, and I hope to see you in the future. Peace.